What if the very foundations of human understanding, meticulously built upon centuries of scientific endeavor and philosophical introspection, were to crumble under the weight of an ancient, almost forgotten truth? What if the genesis of our species, the spark of our intelligence, was not a fortuitous accident of cosmic chemistry or the gradual crawl of evolution, but the deliberate, calculated intervention of beings from beyond our terrestrial realm? This isn't merely the fanciful musing of a late-night chat down at the local pub, nor the plot of a sensationalist flick playing at the Odeon. It's a question that echoes through the annals of history, whispered in the enigmatic pictograms of long-dead civilizations, and etched into the very fabric of our being. The premise is disarmingly simple, yet devastatingly profound. What if humanity isn't indigenous to Earth, not entirely, but rather the progeny, the meticulously crafted legacy of cosmic architects, beings known to the earlier civilizations of Mesopotamia as the Anunnaki? The very name, Anunnaki, rolls off the tongue like a forgotten incantation, imbued with an aura of mystery and immense power. It translates from the ancient Sumerian as "those who from heaven to earth came," a description that immediately conjures images of celestial voyagers descending through the azure expanse onto our verdant planet. For generations, these figures have been relegated to the dusty shelves of mythology, curious artifacts of a primitive worldview, dismissed as mere deities conjured by minds grappling with the unfathomable forces of nature. Yet a burgeoning movement of researchers, historians, and eager truth-seekers across the globe, from the hallowed halls of academia to the quiet, dimly lit studies of independent scholars, proposes a far more audacious interpretation. They contend that the Anunnaki were not gods in the ethereal sense, but rather highly advanced extraterrestrial beings, flesh and blood entities, who arrived on Earth millennia ago, initiating the grand, intricate tapestry of human civilization, and more provocatively, perhaps even engineering our very existence. The implications of such a revelation are staggering, capable of recalibrating our entire cosmic perspective, challenging every dogma, every established narrative of our ascent. The journey into this realm of radical reinterpretation begins not in the sterile, brightly lit laboratories of modern science, but amidst the sun-baked plains of ancient Sumer, a land now largely encompassing modern-day Iraq. This crucible of civilization, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, was the birthplace of writing, the wheel, organized religion, codified law, and urban living. A veritable explosion of innovation that for many seems to have blossomed with an almost inexplicable rapidity. Here, in the ruins of forgotten cities like Uruk, Ur, and Nippur, archaeologists have unearthed countless clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform script, a wedge-shaped writing system that recorded everything from mundane administrative tasks to epic poems and intricate cosmological accounts. These ancient texts, painstakingly preserved beneath layers of desert dust for thousands of years, form the bedrock of our understanding of Sumerian culture and, crucially, of the Anunnaki. They detail not abstract deities, but beings with distinct personalities, complex family trees, rivalries, love affairs, and an astonishingly tangible presence in the daily lives of the Sumerian people. The narratives describe magnificent cities built by these beings, advanced technologies wielded with casual mastery, and a direct, often interventionist, relationship with nascent humanity. The sheer volume and consistency of these accounts, spread across myriad tablets and excavated sites, lend them a weight that transcends simple myth-making. The Anunnaki are portrayed as powerful, often temperamental, but undeniably material beings. They are depicted with human-like forms, albeit sometimes with wings or other symbolic attributes, living amongst the Sumerians, instructing them in the arts of civilization, and establishing complex societal structures. The tales speak of their igigi, a subordinate class who labored for them, performing arduous tasks, including, most significantly, the mining of precious metals. The specific metal frequently mentioned is gold, a substance whose unique properties, from its conductivity to its resistance to corrosion, held immense value even in the ancient world. But perhaps an even greater, more esoteric significance for these celestial visitors. The context provided by these ancient records is not one of divine omnipotence and ethereal detachment, but rather a pragmatic, almost colonial engagement with a burgeoning planet and its nascent inhabitants. It is a story not of divine fiat from on high, but of direct, hands-on management of terrestrial resources and the slow, deliberate cultivation of a new species. The sheer audacity of these ancient narratives compels us to re-examine our preconceptions, to question the standard academic paradigms, and to open our minds to possibilities that, while extraordinary, might just contain the echoes of an unparalleled truth. The journey into the heart of the Anunnaki mystery is a descent into humanity's deepest past, a confrontation with the true architects of our destiny, and a preparation for revelations that could reshape our future. If this beginning has already made you reconsider what you thought you knew, just imagine what lies ahead. So, go on, give us a proper thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because here, every video reveals something few have the courage to show. The initial archaeological digs in Mesopotamia during the 19th and early 20th centuries were painstaking affairs, often conducted under grueling conditions by intrepid British and European explorers and scholars who labored under the scorching sun, enduring the relentless desert winds. It was a proper Herculean task, unearthing layer after layer of history, peeling back the millennia like an onion. As the ancient cities slowly revealed their secrets, a veritable treasure trove of cuneiform tablets began to surface. These weren't just scattered fragments, they were libraries, administrative archives, religious texts, thousands upon thousands of meticulously inscribed clay rectangles and cylinders. The scale of the discovery was unprecedented, and the subsequent decipherment of the Sumerian language, a linguistic feat comparable to cracking the Rosetta Stone, opened a window onto a world long thought lost to the sands of time. British Assyriologists and their international counterparts, poring over these brittle relics in their academic studies, often with a steaming cuppa by their side, began to reconstruct the narratives of this foundational civilization. What they found was a richly detailed cosmos, populated by a pantheon of powerful, often capricious beings whose presence was intricately woven into the very fabric of Sumerian life. These were the Anunnaki. The Sumerian tablets, far from presenting a simple creation myth, offered a complex, multifaceted narrative that detailed the arrival of these beings, their initial struggles on Earth, and their subsequent interaction with early hominids. One of the most compelling aspects of these texts is their remarkable consistency across different cities and different time periods. While variations existed, much like regional accents in English, the core story remained remarkably stable. The Anunnaki were depicted as a distinct group originating from a celestial body, often referred to in later interpretations as the rogue planet Nibiru, who descended to Earth with a specific mission. Their initial objective, according to some translations, was the acquisition of gold, a critical resource for their home world's ailing atmosphere. This was no abstract divine command. It was a pragmatic, almost industrial endeavor. The imagery of celestial beings arriving on Earth to mine for resources is, even by today's science fiction standards, incredibly evocative and resonates with a startling prescience. Among the thousands of tablets, one figure emerged as particularly instrumental in popularizing and reinterpreting the Anunnaki narrative for a modern audience: Zecharia Sitchin. An Azerbaijani-born American author, Sitchin dedicated a significant portion of his life to studying and translating ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, and Hebrew texts. From his painstaking work, published across a series of books collectively known as the Earth Chronicles, Sitchin proposed a revolutionary and indeed highly controversial rereading of these ancient narratives. He didn't see myths. He saw historical accounts, allegories of real events, and technological descriptions veiled in ancient metaphor. Sitchin argued that the Sumerian texts were not primitive fables, but detailed records of extraterrestrial visitations and genetic manipulation. His theories, while widely dismissed by mainstream archaeology and linguistics, ignited the imaginations of millions, providing a coherent, if unorthodox, explanation for many of humanity's most enduring mysteries. Sitchin's core proposition centered on the planet Nibiru, an alleged 10th planet in our solar system, or rather, a dwarf planet beyond Neptune's orbit, sometimes referred to as Planet X, though Sitchin's description often placed it on a highly elliptical orbit. He claimed that Nibiru, with its elongated elliptical trajectory, would periodically swing into the inner solar system every 3,600 years. It was from this planet, he asserted, that the Anunnaki came. They arrived on Earth approximately 450,000 years ago, drawn by our planet's abundant gold reserves. Sitchin meticulously mapped out the perceived political intrigues and interpersonal dynamics among the Anunnaki leadership, particularly focusing on the rivalry between Enlil, the commander, and Enki, the chief scientist, and a more benevolent figure towards humanity. These were not abstract, formless gods, but beings with complex motivations, ambitions, and shortcomings, very much like the protagonists of a Shakespearean tragedy, albeit on a cosmic scale. The narrative, as interpreted by Sitchin, describes the Anunnaki's initial attempts to mine gold using their own lower-ranking personnel, the Igigi. However, the arduous, back-breaking labor in the scorching climate of the ancient Near East eventually led to a rebellion among the Igigi, who simply couldn't hack it anymore. Faced with a labor crisis that threatened their entire mission, the Anunnaki leadership, specifically Enki and the chief medical officer Ninhursag, embarked upon a daring and ethically questionable scientific endeavor to create a primitive laborer, a Lulu Amelu, by genetically engineering an existing hominid on Earth. This creation, Sitchin argued, was achieved by blending Anunnaki DNA with that of Homo erectus, or an early Neanderthal, resulting in Homo sapiens, us. The Sumerian tablets, in this radical reinterpretation, become not just religious texts, but genetic blueprints, scientific journals of an advanced alien civilization's biological experiments. The notion that our very existence is the result of such an intervention is, for many, deeply unsettling, challenging the very notion of human autonomy and uniqueness. Yet for others, it provides a compelling, almost intuitive answer to the perplexing missing links in the evolutionary chain and the sudden, inexplicable leap in human cognitive abilities. The Sumerian texts, as translated and interpreted by Sitchin and others, paint a vivid picture of the Anunnaki pantheon, a complex bureaucracy of celestial overseers with specific roles and often conflicting agendas, operating with a palpable sense of purpose on Earth. At the zenith of this cosmic hierarchy stood Anu, the supreme ruler and father of the prominent Anunnaki. He was the distant, revered patriarch, residing largely on Nibiru, making only infrequent visits to Earth, his authority absolute, but often mediated by his two most powerful sons, Enlil and Enki. Their relationship, as chronicled in the ancient clay tablets, was a turbulent tapestry woven with threads of rivalry, professional disagreement, and a deep-seated philosophical divergence regarding their terrestrial undertaking, particularly concerning the nascent human race. Enlil, whose name means Lord of the Command, or Lord of the Air, was depicted as the stern, uncompromising commander tasked with overseeing the Anunnaki operations on Earth. He was the pragmatic, rule-bound enforcer, focused intently on the mission's efficiency and the maintenance of order. His temperament was often portrayed as harsh, unyielding, and frequently antagonistic towards humanity, viewing the newly created species primarily as a servile workforce, useful only for its labor. He was the one who, in many accounts, advocated for humanity's destruction during the Great Flood. Exasperated by their burgeoning numbers and perceived noisiness, their burgeoning sentience unsettling his meticulous plans. Enlil's decrees were absolute, his presence awe-inspiring and terrifying in equal measure, a true lord whose pronouncements could alter the course of terrestrial existence. His persona embodies the rigid, authoritative structure of the Anunnaki's hierarchical society, a proper military leader rather than a benevolent god. In stark contrast stood Enki, whose name translates to Lord of the Earth, or Lord of the Abzu, the deep waters beneath the earth. Enki was the chief scientist, the master craftsman, and perhaps the most complex and enigmatic figure among the Anunnaki. He possessed an insatiable curiosity, a profound intellect, and a much softer, often empathetic disposition towards humanity. It was Enki, alongside Ninhursag, the chief medical officer, who spearheaded the genetic experimentation that allegedly led to the creation of Homo sapiens. He viewed humanity not merely as a tool, but as a fascinating biological experiment, an opportunity for intellectual exploration and innovation. His cunning and resourcefulness were legendary. He frequently circumvented Enlil's harsher edicts, often through clever stratagems or outright disobedience, to protect and guide humanity. He was the one who, according to Sumerian law, warned the human Noah, Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh, of the impending flood, defying Enlil's genocidal decree and ensuring the survival of a remnant of humankind. Enki's narrative arc presents him as the archetypal Prometheus, a benevolent rebel bringing knowledge and salvation to a burgeoning species, often at great personal risk within the Anunnaki power structure. Ninhursag, also known as Ninti, Lady of Life, or Mamu, Mother Creator, held the vital role of chief medical officer and goddess of birth. She was instrumental in the genetic engineering process, providing the biological expertise necessary to combine Anunnaki and hominid DNA. Her role as a mother figure, not only to individual Anunnaki, but symbolically to humanity itself, is deeply embedded in the Sumerian narratives. She is often depicted assisting Enki in the creation of various human prototypes, grappling with the biological challenges of their grand experiment and demonstrating a profound understanding of life sciences that vastly outstripped anything known on Earth for millennia. Her presence underscores the sophisticated scientific capabilities attributed to the Anunnaki, transforming what might otherwise be viewed as miraculous creation into a process of advanced biological engineering. These three figures, Anu, Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursag, form the core of the Anunnaki presence on Earth, their interactions, rivalries, and decisions shaping the very trajectory of early human civilization. Beyond these primary figures, the Sumerian pantheon included a host of other Anunnaki, each with specific domains and responsibilities. There was Nannar, Sin, the moon god, Utu, Shamash, the sun god, known for his justice and law-giving, and Inanna, Ishtar, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, whose passionate and often tumultuous exploits are extensively detailed in ancient texts. Each of these beings, while possessing immense power, was portrayed with distinctly human-like characteristics, flaws, and desires. They felt anger, jealousy, love, and frustration. They governed, they taught, they fought, and they reveled. They were not abstract deities existing in an ethereal plane. They walked among humanity, engaged in their daily lives, and influenced their destinies directly. This fundamental aspect of the Anunnaki narrative, Their tangible, interactive presence is what distinguishes it so sharply from many later religious traditions, where deities are often distant, omniscient, and disembodied. The Sumerian accounts describe a highly advanced, hierarchical, and technologically capable civilization, not of gods in the spiritual sense, but of powerful, flesh and blood extraterrestrials whose prolonged sojourn on Earth left an indelible mark, sculpting the very clay from which humanity emerged and laying the foundational stones of our complex, often bewildering modern world. The details, when viewed through this particular lens, become almost unnervingly specific, moving beyond allegory into what could be interpreted as chronicled history, waiting for us to fully grasp its momentous implications. The narrative of the Anunnaki's presence on Earth takes an even more compelling turn when one begins to connect their alleged technological prowess and resource requirements to some of the most enduring architectural enigmas of our ancient world. If these beings were indeed advanced cosmic visitors, possessing capabilities far beyond those of early human civilizations, it stands to reason that they would have left behind evidence of their extraordinary engineering feats, structures that defy conventional archaeological explanations. And indeed, across the globe, from the sun-drenched plains of the Middle East to the windswept moors of the British Isles, there exist monumental constructions whose origins and methods of assembly continue to baffle mainstream science, prompting some researchers to look for unconventional explanations that often circle back to the those who from heaven to earth came. Consider, for instance, the colossal platform at Baalbek in modern-day Lebanon, an ancient site that has been continuously inhabited for millennia. While Roman temples now crown the Acropolis, the true wonder lies beneath, an older megalithic foundation composed of truly gargantuan stones. Among these are the famous trilithon, 3 stones each weighing approximately 800 tons, and the stone of the pregnant woman nearby, an even larger block estimated at around 1,000 tons. To put this into perspective, the largest stones used in the construction of Stonehenge, that iconic British landmark, weigh a mere 50 tons, requiring hundreds of men and immense ingenuity to move. The sheer scale and precision with which the Baalbek stones were cut, transported from a quarry kilometers away, and fitted together with not even a razor blade's gap between them, poses an almost insuperable engineering problem for ancient civilizations reliant on ropes, rollers, and brute force. Mainstream archaeologists offer various theories, often involving complex systems of ramps and levers, but none fully explain the meticulous precision and the sheer effort required to handle such colossal masses, leaving a nagging sense of inadequacy in their wake. For proponents of the Anunnaki theory, Baalbek stands as a colossal testament to their advanced construction techniques, perhaps built as an early landing platform or an energy generation site, rather than merely a temple base. Further east, in what is now southeastern Turkey, lies Göbekli Tepe, a site that has fundamentally rewritten the timeline of human civilization. Discovered in the mid-1990s, Göbekli Tepe is a complex of massive circular structures featuring exquisitely carved T-shaped pillars weighing up to 20 tons, dating back an astonishing 12,000 years, predating the invention of agriculture, pottery, and even the wheel by thousands of years. This incredible site, seemingly built by hunter-gatherers, demonstrates a level of sophisticated architectural planning, engineering, and artistic expression that was previously thought impossible for its era. The prevailing scientific narrative has always posited that large-scale, organized construction only became possible after the development of settled agricultural societies. Göbekli Tepe throws a proper spanner in the works, utterly confounding this established timeline. How could hunter-gatherers, living a nomadic existence, possess the societal organization, the labor force, and the conceptual framework to envision and construct such a monumental sacred complex? For those who champion the Anunnaki hypothesis, Göbekli Tepe could represent an early human Anunnaki collaborative project, or perhaps a site where the Anunnaki themselves laid foundational knowledge, inspiring the local populations to achieve what was previously considered unimaginable. And what about our very own Stonehenge, that enigmatic ring of sarsen stones and bluestones on Salisbury Plain? While firmly attributed to Neolithic and Bronze Age Britons, the methods by which the massive stones were transported over vast distances and precisely erected remain a subject of fervent debate and ongoing experimentation. The logistical challenges were immense, and the alignment with solstices and equinoxes speaks to a profound astronomical knowledge. Could it be that even in our local history there are echoes of an advanced understanding, perhaps imparted by, or even inspired by, the Sky People? While direct links to the Anunnaki are purely speculative in the context of Stonehenge, it represents a global phenomenon of ancient megalithic construction that pushes the boundaries of conventional explanation. These sites, scattered across the Earth like colossal breadcrumbs, suggest a unifying thread, an advanced, technologically capable intelligence at work in the deep past, an intelligence that facilitated feats of engineering far beyond the assumed capabilities of early humanity. The sheer scale, precision, and astronomical alignments found in many of these ancient structures hint at a global network of knowledge, perhaps even a global overseeing presence. For those who believe in the Anunnaki narrative, these are not just ancient ruins. They are tangible proof, silent witnesses to a time when beings from another world walked among us, shaping our world and perhaps even our very genetic code. You already stopped to think about it, haven't you? It makes you wonder, if these structures are truly beyond our ancestors' capabilities, who exactly was helping them, or perhaps instructing them? Comment AE if this detail surprised you. Your insight helps keep this content vibrant and alive. The most provocative and, for many, the most unsettling aspect of the Anunnaki narrative, as meticulously pieced together from ancient Sumerian texts, revolves around the genesis of humanity itself. It proposes not a divine creation from a distant ethereal god, nor a gradual, unguided evolutionary process, but a deliberate, calculated act of genetic engineering. This concept, initially championed by Zecharia Sitchin, presents a radical reinterpretation of our origins, transforming us from accidental products of nature into the crafted legacy of cosmic visitors. According to Sitchin's translations, the Anunnaki, faced with a labor crisis after the Igigi rebellion in the gold mines, convened a council to address the pressing issue. The solution, proposed by the brilliant scientist Enki and supported by the chief medical officer Ninhursag, was revolutionary: to create a primitive worker, the Lulu Amelu, by modifying an existing hominid species already present on Earth. The aim was to produce a hybrid being capable of understanding basic commands, possessing the strength and endurance for mining, but without the full intellectual capacity or autonomy that might lead to further rebellions. This was not a creation born of benevolence, but of pure, unadulterated necessity, a pragmatic solution to an urgent industrial problem. The Sumerian tablets, in this interpretation, become astonishingly detailed accounts of what could be seen as ancient biological experiments. They describe Ninhursag, often referred to as Ninti, Lady of Life, taking the essence of an Anunnaki god and combining it with the clay of Earth, which Sitchin interprets as the genetic material of an existing hominid species, such as Homo erectus or an early Neanderthal. The texts speak of difficult initial attempts, of prototypes that were not quite right, beings that were mute or blind, or had other physical imperfections. These descriptions mirror the trial and error process inherent in any complex scientific endeavor, far removed from the instantaneous, perfect creation often found in traditional religious narratives. It suggests a methodical, if arduous, scientific process undertaken by beings with advanced knowledge of genetics and biology, a knowledge that would not be rediscovered by humanity for millennia. The breakthrough, as described in these ancient accounts, came when a viable Lulu Amalu was successfully engineered. This new being, possessing a blend of Anunnaki DNA, providing superior intelligence and consciousness, and terrestrial hominid DNA, providing the physical resilience needed for manual labor, was capable of speech, reason, and most importantly, following instructions. It was the birth of Homo sapiens. The texts even detail the process of cloning, or rapid reproduction, of this initial prototype through what sounds remarkably like in vitro fertilization, with Ninhursag acting as the lead geneticist and 12 birth goddesses, Ninhursag's assistants, serving as surrogate mothers to rapidly expand the initial population. This rapid expansion of a genetically modified species allowed the Anunnaki to quickly populate their mines with the necessary workforce, solving their immediate gold-mining woes. The implications of this genetic creation narrative are nothing short of monumental. If true, it fundamentally redefines human identity and purpose. We are not simply the product of millions of years of natural selection. We are, in essence, a designer species, engineered for a specific purpose by an alien intelligence. This would explain the sudden and inexplicable leap in human cognitive abilities, often referred to as the cognitive revolution, which seems to have occurred with astonishing rapidity compared to the sluggish pace of earlier hominid evolution. The missing link that has perpetually plagued evolutionary theory might, in this context, be explained not by a gap in the fossil record, but by a deliberate intervention, a precise biological upgrade. This perspective also offers a compelling, if controversial, explanation for the universal human yearning for a higher power, for a creator. If our earliest ancestors were indeed brought into being by the Anunnaki, and if these beings lived among them, instructing them and commanding them, it is entirely plausible that the concept of gods, powerful, often invisible, but ultimately real figures who shaped their destiny, would become deeply embedded in the human psyche, passed down through generations, eventually evolving into the diverse religious traditions we observe today. The idea that we were created to serve, even if that service was mining gold, casts a long, unsettling shadow on our understanding of free will and destiny. It transforms our foundational myths into echoes of a profound scientific endeavor, a cosmic experiment whose results we are living out even now. It means that the ancient texts are not mere flights of fancy, but perhaps the world's oldest and most consequential scientific diary, chronicling the very moment humanity was brought into being, not by divine magic, but by alien science. The pervasive and often terrifying narrative of a great global deluge, an apocalyptic flood that cleansed the earth and reshaped the landscape of burgeoning human civilization, is a cornerstone of mythologies across cultures and continents. From the biblical account of Noah's Ark to the Epic of Gilgamesh, indigenous tales in North America, and flood stories from ancient India and China, the consistency is uncanny. For proponents of the Anunnaki theory, particularly those who follow Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations, these aren't merely cautionary fables or naturalistic observations of localized floods. They are collective memories, scarred deeply into the human psyche, of a cataclysmic event directly linked to the Anunnaki and their ongoing drama on Earth. This theory posits that the Great Flood was not an act of divine punishment by an abstract god, but a strategic decision by the Anunnaki leadership, specifically Enlil, to wipe out a human population that had become, in his eyes, an inconvenient and unruly nuisance. According to the Sumerian texts, as interpreted through this lens, humanity, initially created as a labor force, had proliferated beyond the Anunnaki's control. They were loud, their numbers growing exponentially, and their nascent intelligence was causing a bit of a kerfuffle among the more rigid Anunnaki leadership, particularly Enlil. He viewed them as an irritating distraction, a failed experiment that needed to be reset. The texts speak of Enlil's frustration, his growing desire to eradicate humanity entirely. The opportunity for such a drastic measure presented itself with the impending approach of Nibiru, the Anunnaki's home planet, on its cyclical return through the inner solar system. As Nibiru drew near, its immense gravitational pull would exert extraordinary tidal forces on Earth, causing massive seismic activity, glacial melt, and ultimately a catastrophic rise in sea levels, a veritable tsunami on a planetary scale. This was not a divine act of retribution, but a predictable celestial event, an astronomical inevitability that Enlil sought to exploit. The Anunnaki Council, with Enlil's influence, allegedly decided to let humanity perish in the coming deluge. They made a solemn oath not to warn the Earthlings, intending a complete reset of the planet's intelligent population. However, Enki, the brilliant scientist and known patron of humanity, found himself in a moral quandary. His affection for his creation, the species he had painstakingly engineered, ran deeper than his loyalty to Enlil's harsh decree. In a remarkable act of defiance, Enki decided to circumvent the council's oath. He approached Ziusudra, known as Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and Noah in the Hebrew Bible, a pious and wise human, not directly, but through a reed wall, speaking to the structure as if to himself, knowing that Ziusudra would overhear his words. He provided Ziusudra with precise instructions: build a large, multi-decked boat, seal it tightly, and gather his family, craftsmen, and the seeds of all living things, animals and plants, to preserve life from the impending catastrophe. This act of covert intervention highlights Enki's recurring role as humanity's protector and benefactor, often operating in the shadows against the stricter dictates of his brother, Enlil. The narratives of the flood, both Sumerian and later, describe the terror and devastation with visceral detail. The skies darkened, the rains poured for days and nights, the earth convulsed, and the waters rose relentlessly, submerging mountains and plains, wiping out all life outside of Ziusudra's carefully constructed vessel. When the deluge finally subsided, and the ark came to rest on a mountaintop, the surviving Anunnaki, who had observed the catastrophe from their orbiting craft, descended to Earth. The sight that greeted them was one of utter desolation, a vast, watery graveyard. Enlil, upon discovering that humanity had survived thanks to Enki's cunning, was furious, his rage a palpable force. However, Enki successfully argued for humanity's continued existence, highlighting their usefulness and reminding Enlil of the labor crisis that had necessitated their creation in the first place. This flood narrative, when viewed through the Anunnaki lens, transforms from a morality tale into a record of ancient extraterrestrial politics and a monumental act of planetary geoengineering. The global recurrence of flood myths, often with remarkably similar details, a chosen family, an ark, animals saved, a divine warning, and a catastrophic flood, lends credence to the idea of a shared cataclysmic event, not just scattered local inundations. It suggests a powerful collective memory of a historical disaster witnessed and survived by humanity, an event orchestrated or at least strategically exploited by a non-human intelligence. The story isn't just about survival, it's about the intricate, often tumultuous, relationship between humanity and its alleged creators, a relationship marked by intervention, control, defiance, and ultimately, a grudging acceptance of our tenacious existence on Earth. The Great Flood, in this context, becomes a pivotal moment in human history, a dramatic chapter in the Anunnaki Chronicle, cementing our precarious place in a cosmic drama far grander and more ancient than we could ever have imagined. The theories surrounding the Anunnaki, particularly those propagated by Zecharia Sitchin, while captivating to a vast audience eagerly seeking alternative explanations for humanity's origins, have not, by any stretch of the imagination, been met with open arms by the mainstream academic community. Indeed, they've often been subjected to rigorous, sometimes scathing criticism from established linguists, archaeologists, historians, and astronomers. The chasm between Sitchin's interpretations and conventional scholarship is immense, a veritable Grand Canyon of intellectual disagreement, and it's crucial for anyone delving into this subject to understand the robust counter-arguments. The criticisms are multifaceted, touching upon linguistic accuracy, archaeological methodology, and astronomical plausibility, all delivered with the careful, often dry, precision characteristic of British academia. One of the primary battlegrounds is linguistics. Sitchin, a self-taught Sumerian scholar, asserted his ability to translate the ancient cuneiform tablets, deriving his radical interpretations from these translations. However, professional Assyriologists and Sumerian linguists, those who have dedicated their entire careers to mastering these complex dead languages, vehemently dispute the accuracy of his work. They argue that Sitchin often cherry-picked meanings, selectively translated passages to fit his preconceived narrative, or simply made outright errors in his understanding of the nuances of Sumerian grammar, vocabulary, and context. Critics contend that Sumerian texts, like any ancient language, are highly susceptible to misinterpretation without a deep understanding of their cultural and historical milieu. To take phrases literally that were intended metaphorically, or to impose a modern scientific understanding onto ancient religious or poetic texts, is, in their view, a fundamental methodological flaw. For example, where Sitchin sees detailed descriptions of genetic engineering, professional linguists see mythological accounts of creation employing symbolic language common in ancient religious narratives. They argue that the clay from which humanity was made is a metaphor for the raw material of life, not literal DNA. Archaeological evidence also presents a significant hurdle for Sitchin's theories. Mainstream archaeologists, meticulously unearthing and analyzing sites across Mesopotamia, have found no tangible evidence of advanced alien technology, nor any physical remains that convincingly point to genetic manipulation. The artifacts uncovered, from pottery and tools to monumental architecture, all fit within a gradual, albeit sometimes rapid, trajectory of human technological development. There are no spaceships, no alien mining equipment, no laboratories filled with Anunnaki scientific instruments. While sites like Baalbek present engineering puzzles, mainstream archaeology attributes them to advanced but human ingenuity and labor, even if the precise methods remain debated. The lack of direct, undeniable archaeological corroboration for such a profound and invasive alien presence is a major point of contention for scholars who demand empirical evidence. Astronomical arguments also play a crucial role in refuting Sitchin's Nibiru hypothesis. Astronomers universally reject the existence of a planet like Nibiru, as described by Sitchin, with a 3,600-year elliptical orbit that periodically brings it into the inner solar system. Such a large planetary body would have been detected by now through its gravitational influence on other celestial bodies. Furthermore, its repeated close passages to Earth would inevitably cause catastrophic orbital disruptions to our planet, leading to far more chaos than just a single great flood, and certainly altering Earth's orbit in ways that are simply not observed. The mechanics of such an orbit are, according to astrophysicists, simply not plausible within our current understanding of celestial dynamics. What's more, The name Nibiru in Sumerian texts is generally understood by mainstream scholars to refer to Jupiter or to a celestial body associated with the god Marduk and not a hypothetical 10th planet. It's a bit like confusing a street name with a mythical creature, a fundamental misattribution. Moreover, the very premise of the Anunnaki's gold mining operation for atmospheric repair on their home planet is often questioned. While gold has unique properties, modern science suggests that much cheaper and more abundant elements, or entirely different atmospheric engineering solutions, would be far more practical for planetary atmospheric repair than mining gold on a distant world and transporting it across the vast emptiness of space. This line of criticism highlights the anthropocentric bias in Sitchin's interpretations, where alien motives are made to align perhaps too conveniently with human notions of value and necessity. In essence, while the narrative of the Anunnaki as ancient astronauts offers a compelling and emotionally resonant alternative history, mainstream academia maintains that it fundamentally misinterprets ancient texts, lacks empirical archaeological support, and rests on astronomically implausible conjectures. They argue that Sitchin's work falls squarely into the realm of pseudo-history, a fascinating thought experiment perhaps, but not a serious contribution to our understanding of the ancient world. The consensus in established circles is that the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki are rich, complex mythologies that reflect the religious, philosophical, and cosmological beliefs of an ancient people attempting to understand their world, not literal historical records of extraterrestrial intervention. It's a proper scholarly disagreement, with strong arguments on both sides, leaving the public to ponder where the truth truly lies. Despite the formidable academic and scientific criticisms leveled against the Anunnaki theories, the fascination with the call of the Anunnaki, the return of the ancient creators, has not only persisted, but has demonstrably flourished in the popular imagination. This enduring appeal, far from diminishing in the face of scholarly debunking, seems to gather momentum, particularly in an era marked by widespread distrust of established institutions and an insatiable hunger for alternative narratives that challenge the status quo. The reasons for this resurgence are complex, deeply rooted in human psychology, our evolving relationship with technology, and a profound, almost existential search for meaning in a rapidly changing world. It's a phenomenon that speaks volumes about modern society's collective anxieties and hopes, often manifesting as a search for answers beyond the conventional. One significant factor contributing to this enduring allure is the pervasive influence of ufology and the broader ancient astronaut theory. The idea that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited Earth, influencing or even initiating human civilization, has been a staple of popular culture since Erich von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods captivated millions in the late 1960s. The Anunnaki narrative fits seamlessly into this framework, providing a detailed, albeit controversial, origin story for these alleged ancient visitors. It offers a more concrete mythology, a specific name, and a compelling set of motivations for alien intervention, moving beyond vague sightings to a coherent, if speculative, historical account. The Anunnaki become the definitive ancient aliens, lending a historical depth and a sense of tangible legacy to the broader ancient astronaut hypothesis. This dovetails neatly with a growing global interest in alleged UFO sightings, classified government documents, and the tantalizing possibility that we are not alone, and perhaps never have been. If you've reached this point without pausing, it's because this topic has truly resonated with you. So, strengthen this content. Give it a like now and send it to someone who needs to see this. Moreover, the Anunnaki narrative taps into a deep human need for a comprehensive origin story. Traditional religious narratives, while powerful, often struggle to reconcile with modern scientific discoveries, leaving many individuals feeling intellectually adrift. Simultaneously, the purely materialistic, random chance narrative of evolution, while scientifically robust, can feel cold and devoid of deeper meaning for some. The Anunnaki theory offers a potent third way, a creation story that incorporates elements of science, genetic engineering, advanced technology, while retaining a sense of divine purpose, or at least intelligent design. It provides an answer to the fundamental question, where did we come from, that is both grand in scope and seemingly rational, even if that rationality relies on highly speculative interpretations. It's a bit like finding a proper detective story that finally explains all the loose ends, even if the evidence is circumstantial. The internet and social media have also played an absolutely pivotal role in the Anunnaki's modern resurgence. In the digital age, information, both accurate and speculative, spreads with unprecedented speed and reach. Online communities dedicated to ancient mysteries, alternative history, and conspiracy theories provide fertile ground for the Anunnaki narrative to be discussed, debated, and disseminated. Podcasts, YouTube documentaries, much like this one, forums and blogs allow individuals to bypass traditional gatekeepers of information, academic institutions, mainstream media, and access a wealth of content that challenges established paradigms. This democratization of information, while empowering, also means that theories like the Anunnaki often gain traction not necessarily through rigorous peer review, but through engaging storytelling, passionate advocacy, and sheer viral appeal. The sheer volume of content available creates an echo chamber where these ideas are reinforced, making them seem more plausible to those immersed in these online spaces. Furthermore, a significant segment of the population feels disillusioned with mainstream narratives, whether they pertain to history, science, or politics. There's a palpable sense that the truth is out there, but that it's being deliberately suppressed by powerful elites or institutions. The Anunnaki story, with its themes of hidden knowledge, ancient cover-ups, and the true origins of humanity being concealed, resonates deeply with this sentiment. It offers a narrative where the common person, by daring to question and look beyond the official story, can uncover profound truths. This anti-establishmentarian streak is a powerful motivator for engagement, transforming curiosity into a form of intellectual rebellion. It's a very British trait, the healthy skepticism of authority, and this theory offers a grand canvas for it. Finally, the sheer dramatic appeal of the Anunnaki narrative cannot be underestimated. It's an epic saga involving cosmic travelers, intergalactic politics, scientific breakthroughs, genetic manipulation, global cataclysms, and the ultimate question of human purpose. It reads like the most compelling science fiction story ever conceived, yet it's presented as forgotten history. The narrative's ability to stimulate imagination, provoke thought, and offer a coherent, if controversial, framework for understanding our place in the universe ensures its continued captivating hold on the minds of millions, far beyond the confines of academic debate. The call of the Anunnaki continues to echo, a potent siren song in the cacophony of modern existence, promising answers to questions that have plagued humanity since we first gazed up at the stars. The narrative of the Anunnaki, whether embraced as ancient history or relegated to the realm of myth, inevitably leads to profound questions about the future. If these ancient texts indeed chronicle the intervention of extraterrestrial creators, what does this imply for the ongoing trajectory of humanity? What would a return of the Anunnaki entail? And how would it reshape our world, our societies, and our very understanding of ourselves? This isn't just a philosophical exercise, it's a contemplation of a future that for some is not merely possible, but perhaps even inevitable, a fulfillment of ancient prophecies etched into the bedrock of human Memory, the sheer weight of such a potential event cast a long, unsettling shadow across our present, demanding that we consider its truly transformative implications. The concept of a return often harks back to the cyclical nature of many ancient myths, where divine or celestial beings depart but promise to reappear at a momentous juncture in human history. For the Anunnaki, a return could be intrinsically linked to Nibiru's alleged cyclical approach to Earth. If Sitchin's astronomical theories held any truth, the close proximity of Nibiru would not only trigger geophysical upheavals, but also signal the opportune moment for its inhabitants, the Anunnaki, to once again interact directly with their terrestrial creation. This return might not be a benevolent second coming, but rather a pragmatic reappearance, perhaps to reassess their property, to reclaim resources, or to simply observe the progress of their genetic experiment after millennia of unsupervised development. The motivations of an ancient alien intelligence are, by definition, unfathomable to us, but the potential for profound disruption is undeniable. Imagine the global impact of such a revelation. The appearance of verifiable extraterrestrial craft, undeniably linked to the figures described in Sumerian texts, would instantly shatter every established religious, scientific, and political paradigm. Religious institutions, founded on unique creation narratives, would face an existential crisis. Scientific understanding of evolution, human origins, and cosmic biology would be irrevocably altered. Political structures, predicated on national sovereignty and terrestrial power dynamics, would be rendered almost irrelevant in the face of an interspecies, interplanetary encounter. The initial global reaction would likely be a volatile cocktail of fear, awe, mass hysteria, and perhaps a desperate search for guidance from these ancient creators. It would be a proper scramble, a veritable free-for-all of beliefs and disbeliefs. Some proponents of the Anunnaki theory speculate that a return might already be subtly underway, or that signs of their impending arrival are manifesting in contemporary events. They point to an increase in unexplained aerial phenomena, UAPs or UFOs, strange astronomical observations, and even geopolitical shifts as potential indicators. The accelerating pace of technological advancement, the rapid changes in human consciousness, and the escalating environmental crises on Earth are sometimes interpreted as triggers or signals for the Anunnaki to step back into the spotlight. Could it be that humanity, having reached a certain technological or social threshold, is now considered ready for a renewed interaction with its creators? Or perhaps that our current trajectory is deemed unsustainable, necessitating another intervention? The answers, of course, remain tantalizingly out of reach, but the questions themselves are potent enough to fuel endless speculation. The psychological impact on humanity would be immense. If we truly discover that our intelligence, our very consciousness, was gifted or engineered by another species, it would force a profound re-evaluation of human exceptionalism. Are we truly unique, or are we merely a sophisticated tool, a successful biological experiment? This could lead to a crisis of identity, a feeling of diminished autonomy, or conversely, a renewed sense of purpose within a larger cosmic framework. The potential for social fragmentation, as different factions interpret the Anunnaki's return through their own ideological lenses, is also a worrying prospect. Some might embrace them as saviors, others as invaders, leading to global divisions that could make current conflicts seem trivial by comparison. Ultimately, the idea of the return of the ancient creators serves as a powerful thought experiment, a dramatic hypothetical scenario that compels us to re-examine our past, question our present, and prepare for a future that might be far stranger and more complex than we could ever have imagined. It pushes us beyond anthropocentric views, forcing us to consider humanity's place within a potentially vast, multi-species cosmic drama. Whether the Anunnaki return in physical form or merely as a renewed philosophical understanding of our origins, their call continues to echo, a persistent and captivating whisper from the deep past, promising revelations that could irrevocably alter the course of human destiny. The prospect is both terrifying and exhilarating, a proper cosmic conundrum that demands our attention, for the truth, if it indeed resides within these ancient accounts, would fundamentally change everything. The intellectual and emotional journey into the Anunnaki narrative, particularly the radical notion that humanity was genetically engineered by an extraterrestrial civilization, culminates in a profound confrontation with our own identity and purpose. If the meticulous interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts hold even a sliver of truth, then the philosophical and psychological implications for Homo sapiens are nothing short of monumental. It forces us to peel back layers of ingrained assumptions, to question the very essence of what it means to be human, and to grapple with a cosmic reality far grander and more intricate than our current scientific and religious frameworks typically allow. This is not merely an academic debate, it's an existential challenge, a mirror held up to our collective soul. Consider the bedrock of human exceptionalism, the belief that we are unique, the pinnacle of evolution on Earth, perhaps even chosen or divinely favored. If we discover that our consciousness, our capacity for abstract thought, our intricate language, and our unparalleled ingenuity were not purely the products of random mutations and natural selection over millions of years, but rather a deliberate biological upgrade orchestrated by the Anunnaki, then this entire construct of exceptionalism crumbles. We would be, in essence, a manufactured species, a sophisticated tool brought into being for a purpose we are only now beginning to dimly perceive. This could trigger a deep-seated identity crisis, a feeling of being less natural or less self-made, which for many could be incredibly unsettling, a proper kick in the guts for our collective ego. Conversely, such a revelation could offer a liberating new perspective. The persistent human search for meaning, for a creator, for a grand design, might suddenly find its answer, albeit one far removed from traditional religious dogma. Instead of a benevolent ethereal deity, we would have highly advanced flesh-and-blood architects, beings who, for all their power, were also prone to very human-like rivalries, ambitions, and ethical dilemmas. This tangible, if alien origin story could imbue human existence with a new kind of purpose, placing us within a larger, more complex cosmic tapestry. Our history wouldn't be random, it would be a chapter in a much larger interspecies saga, a narrative that stretches across the stars. This could foster a sense of belonging within a galactic community, even if that community views us as a genetic experiment. The question of free will, a perennial philosophical conundrum, also takes on new urgency. If our very makeup was designed, were our inclinations, our limitations, and even our potential for greatness pre-programmed? Does this diminish our choices, or does it simply provide a context for them? The Anunnaki narrative suggests that early humans were created as Lulu Amelu, primitive workers, essentially a slave race. While human history has certainly been a struggle against various forms of servitude, the idea that our original state was one of engineered subservience adds a profound layer to our ongoing quest for autonomy and self-determination. Our entire history of striving for freedom, for justice, for self-governance could be interpreted as a species-wide rebellion against its original programming, a slow, arduous ascent from cosmic serfdom. It's a rather dramatic thought, isn't it? Furthermore, the Anunnaki theories challenge our understanding of knowledge itself. If ancient texts, long dismissed as mere myths, contain factual accounts of extraterrestrial intervention and advanced science, then what else have we misunderstood? What other ancient wisdom, what other seemingly fantastical tales might contain kernels of profound truth veiled in allegory or mistranslation? This opens the floodgates for a re-examination of global mythologies, sacred texts, and unexplained phenomena through an entirely new lens, fostering a healthier skepticism towards established historical narratives and encouraging a more open-minded approach to unconventional explanations. It forces us to question the very sources of our knowledge and the filters through which we perceive reality. The profound psychological impact of accepting the Anunnaki narrative would necessitate a complete recalibration of humanity's place in the cosmos. We would shift from being the sole intelligent inhabitants of a small planet to potentially being one species among many, albeit one with a unique, engineered heritage. This transition from anthropocentrism to a more cosmic perspective would humble us, certainly, but it might also ignite a new era of interstellar curiosity, a renewed drive to explore the universe and understand our place within its grand design. The very call of the Anunnaki, then, is not just a call to remember our past, but a call to embrace a future where our identity is no longer confined to the terrestrial, but expanded to the cosmic. It challenges us to shed our intellectual conservatism and confront the possibility that the most extraordinary truths about our existence may well be found not in the familiar, but in the radical and the utterly unexpected. This reorientation of thought could be the most significant psychological shift humanity has ever undertaken, a veritable paradigm shift of monumental proportions, impacting every aspect of human endeavor, from art to ethics to science itself. As we draw towards the conclusion of this exploration into the call of the Anunnaki, the return of the ancient creators, it becomes profoundly clear that this is not merely a historical inquiry, but an ongoing enigma, a set of unresolved questions that continue to reverberate through the corridors of time and across the vast expanse of human consciousness. The journey through ancient Sumerian texts, Zecharia Sitchin's provocative interpretations, the colossal architectural mysteries of the ancient world, and the profound psychological implications of an engineered humanity, leaves us not with definitive answers, but with a heightened sense of wonder and a catalogue of queries that demand further contemplation. The very nature of this documentary-style investigation is to provoke thought, to challenge established narratives, and to open pathways to understanding that mainstream discourse often overlooks. The central question remains tantalizingly unanswered. Are the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki literal historical records of extraterrestrial visitation and genetic intervention, or are they rich, complex mythological narratives crafted by an ancient people grappling with the mysteries of creation and existence? Mainstream academia, with its reliance on empirical evidence and rigorous linguistic analysis, leans heavily towards the latter, dismissing the ancient astronaut theories as pseudo-history. Yet the persistent parallels across global flood myths, the inexplicable engineering feats of sites like Baalbek and Göbekli Tepe, and the sudden, rapid acceleration of human cognitive abilities continue to fuel the alternative hypothesis, suggesting that there might be more to these ancient stories than meets the conventional eye. It's a proper head-scratcher, isn't it? If we entertain the possibility that the Anunnaki were indeed those who from heaven to earth came, highly advanced extraterrestrial beings who engineered humanity for their own purposes, then what does that mean for our future? Are we still part of their grand experiment? Do they observe us from the shadows, perhaps from the distant reaches of our solar system, or even from within its hidden corners? The idea of their return remains a powerful, almost prophetic concept for many, hinting at a future where humanity might once again confront its creators, leading to unimaginable revelations and transformations. This is not a concept to be dismissed lightly, for the impact of such a re-encounter would irrevocably alter every facet of human civilization, from our understanding of science and religion to our political structures and our very sense of self. The enduring fascination with the Anunnaki speaks to a deeper human yearning, a desire to understand our place in the universe, to unravel the ultimate mystery of our origins, and to find meaning beyond the mundane. In a world saturated with information, yet often starved of profound truth, the narrative of ancient cosmic creators offers a compelling framework for making sense of the inexplicable, for connecting the disparate dots of ancient history and modern anomalies. It provides a grander narrative, one that expands our consciousness beyond the confines of our blue planet, suggesting that our story is intricately woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Ultimately, the call of the Anunnaki, the return of the ancient creators, serves not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to question, to explore, to think critically, and to maintain an open mind in the face of extraordinary possibilities. The ancient whispers from Sumer continue to echo, urging us to look beyond the surface, to delve deeper into the archives of our past, and to reconsider everything we thought we knew about where we came from and where we might be headed. The truth, if it lies within these ancient tales, could be far stranger, more complex, and more impactful than any fiction we could possibly imagine. It leaves us with profound questions. What if the myths are more than just myths? What if the answers to humanity's deepest questions are found not in future discoveries, but in the forgotten histories of our distant past? The journey into the Anunnaki enigma is far from over. It is a continuously unfolding narrative, waiting for us to fully grasp its momentous implications. If this content has truly opened your mind, comment below. Chege ateu fin. This helps us understand who genuinely seeks profound knowledge. Give the video a like if it made you think differently. Subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell, because the upcoming episodes will delve even deeper into these mysteries. And click on the content already on the screen. It's the logical continuation of what you've just seen. Trust me, you won't want to stop here.